Hello, I am Lindsay, also known as Alltheyarn on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Ravelry. I am Alltheyarn dash. It's got to be a dash at the end, otherwise you're messaging someone that's not me. I have wanted to podcast for a while. I was very nervous to start, and last weekend I was at a fiber retreat with 3 podcasters. They were Chevy Rel Stuff, 2 Pearls in a Pod, and the Knitters are here. And I talked to them, and pretty much they all said, just do it. Your first episode's going to be crappy. Well, there you go. Here you are. You are the crappy episode. But you learn from it and just go. So here I am, and I am super excited to be jumping in with both feet into the podcast world. I've been in the fiber community for over a decade. It's been a lot of fun. I am hoping being part of the podcasters community, it is equally fun and exciting. So a little bit about me. Again, I'm Lindsay. I'm Alltheyarn. I also am the dyer of linden wool, but I've been crafting since 2008-ish. I tried crochet. Actually, I first tried, I was looking for a hobby, is really how this all started. I had recently graduated from college. I suddenly had a lot of free time because I didn't have kids and I didn't have homework. So I thought, well, what could I do? I tried cooking and failed miserably. To this day, I am not a good cook, but that's okay. I can make edible. And so the bar's there. Is it edible? I'm a very adventurous eater simply because I've eaten a lot of my own cooking. So cooking failed, gardening failed. I decided to try sewing, and I enjoyed that a lot. I mean, a lot. I enjoy the finished products that you get from sewing. But I quickly realized sewing isn't portable. Sewing is not something I can easily take to the dentist office when I'm sitting in a waiting room. So I wanted to try something else, and I was at Joann's, I think for something for sewing, I don't know. But I saw that they had this class list, and I tried crochet. Now they had crochet classes and knitting classes, and I think I chose crochet simply because that was the day I was available for their class. I wasn't available for the knitting class, so crochet it was. I'm better at crochet than cooking, but I'm better at sewing than I am at crochet. Some people can knit, crochet, go back and forth, and it's not a big deal to them. But there are a lot of crafters out there where one makes sense and the other one doesn't. And I fall into that group. I really struggled with the tension on crochet. It felt like my hands didn't work. I felt like I was fighting the hook. I was fighting the yarn. It was very difficult. I couldn't wrap my head around the stitches. It was difficult. That's really what it was. So I tried then knitting. Now, I have a grandmother that knits. When I say she knits, I mean everywhere she went, her knitting went with her. You didn't see Graham without her knitting, ever. Growing up, I always had these beautiful sweaters, handmade sweaters from my Graham. She was an amazing crafting person. So when I tried knitting and I picked up these needles, it felt right. Having the needles hold the yarn felt right. Also I felt this emotional connection to my Graham, and I was not like, oh, she's a natural. I mean, I had to go through the whole, my tension's too tight, you're picking up I had my own issues. I still had to learn, but it made sense to me. It made sense to my hands. So I stuck with it. Another driving force with sticking with knitting is that my Graham had knit the family, and by the family I mean her, my grandpa, their kids, so my dad, the aunts and uncles, their spouses, and then their children. So my generation, my cousins, my Graham had knit us all matching stockings. And as I was learning to knit, I realized, Graham's not going to be around forever. Who's going to knit the stockings? So that also kind of became a motivator to stick with knitting, figure it out, push through that new stage where it's like, oh, this is kind of getting frustrating. Oh, I don't remember anything. So I could knit those stockings, which I do now. So whenever a child is born or there's a marriage or whatnot, I make the stockings. But that was kind of my introduction to knitting. I love to knit now. I still sometimes crochet. I always call it that I wield a hook. I don't necessarily call myself a crocheter because I don't want to offend anyone that actually knows how to crochet. But I still sew. I've gotten into weaving in the last year. My favorite loom is a 4x4-inch pin loom. And I love that, again, because it's portable. I can take it anywhere. I take it to my knitting group. I take it to, waiting rooms. I can pop out a 4x4-inch square in about 12 to 15 minutes. And so it's like, oh, I got one done. You have that constant sense of satisfaction. So I like that. The other loom that I use quite a bit is the one right behind me. That's my Ashford rigid heddle loom. And I just got a scarf off of it, which I'll show you in a minute. But I enjoy that a lot. I have had it for about a year. I've done a handful of scarves. And this year, my second year with having a rigid heddle loom, is my year of the dish towel. Just got back from this fiber retreat last weekend, and one of the people there had a rigid heddle loom. So I picked his brain quite a bit. I feel like I now have the confidence to try dish towels. So we'll see. Hopefully you'll see too how this goes. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I craft. That's kind of my intro into knitting. I always love to hear how everybody else got started into crafting. So there's my spiel. So I'm going to go into then some of my current whips. All right, so my first whip, it's actually almost done. But this is my pin loom blanket. I used my Dragon Hoard Yarn Cafe Creations 2019 Harry Potter Advent yarn to make this. It was 24 20-gram singles and then one full skein for December 25th. So I got about 6 squares out of each of the mini skeins, and I wove 24 squares out of the full skein. I still have some left over to make this though. And then I can wield a hook. So I used I can get it not to blow out. There we go, kind of. A crochet slip stitch to seam the squares together. I have already sewn on a cotton gauze backing. It's really soft. This is my third blanket. I've only had a pin loom for 6 or 7 months. I got it end of July, beginning of August last year. I had 2 years of advent calendars already, so I whipped those into blankets. And so this blanket I actually made as I was opening them. If you follow me on Instagram, you got to watch. I think I enabled quite a few people to get their own pin loom. I know this last weekend I enabled somebody else to get a pin loom, but I love them. These squares, like I said, they knit up in 12-15 minutes. It's very fast. It's much faster than knitting a mitered square sock memory blanket. I've got one of those going too, but oh my gosh, this is my new friend. So yeah. Anyway, so I sewed on a back, and my other 2 blankets, I made blanket binding out of this cotton gauze, which, okay, for those that sew, you know why that was a bad idea. Cotton gauze, like, just stretches and it moves. It was incredibly tough to sew that on, and my seams are not straight. No. But you know what? Even if your seams aren't straight, it is still super snuggly. So, but for this one, I got really tired of the cotton gauze blanket binding. I did not want satin blanket binding. got cotton gauze, which is just soft. I've got soft merino woven squares, and I thought, oh, satin blanket binding just, it didn't fit the picture that I was building with this project. So I got on Etsy and found somebody that had made some blanket binding out of cotton something, but it looked like it would go with this project. So I've ordered that. I'm waiting for it to come in. Once it does, I will put that on this blanket and I will have an FO, a very large FO. So I'm super excited about that. It's just waiting. It's waiting on the mail to deliver some blanket binding for me. I could have made my own blanket binding. I did that with the cotton gauze, but I was kind of over it. Didn't want to mess with it anymore. I wanted somebody else to make the blanket binding and I just had to pop it on, so that's what I did. That's not always me, but it was me on this blanket, that's for sure. So that's a very large FO, one that I am like, oh, I just want to finish it so much so that I can put it in the rotation with the other two blankets that are going on with it. Another FO I have going on. FO, no. So that's a whip. So that's my very large whip that I cannot wait to turn into an FO. One other whip I have going is my Madewell by Locatelli. And it's going strong. Can you tell? Like, I have 2 sleeves. I've got to finish the bottom ribbing. So I've got a couple more inches to go on that. And then I've got to pick up the neckband. Picking up is not my favorite thing to do, but I'm going to do it because, oh my goodness, look at this yellow. It's pretty. I cannot wait to wear this. This is fingering weight Sweet Georgia yarns, and I will wear this all summer long. It's the happiest color in the world. It just is. So I cannot wait to finish this. I can't wait to turn this whip into an FO. I am slightly concerned that I might run out of yarn. I don't know. Does anyone know of a way to calculate how much yarn is going to be used for the neckband? Is that what it's called? It's not a button band because there's not any buttons. So whatever this part is that goes, you pick up all the way around, you come in. I don't know what that's called, but if there's any way to calculate, approximate how much yarn you're going to need, I'd love to know that because I'm concerned. And I bought this yarn 2 years ago. Oh man. I'm going to be sad if I run out. I'm going to be really sad. I do have another skein of yarn from, it's Madewell Tosh. This is Sweet Georgia Yarns Saffron. And my Madewell Tosh Chamomile, I have just a partial skein of it. It's the exact same color. I mean, spot on, exact same color. But this is 50% merino, 50% silk. And my leftover skein of Madewell Tosh is merino cashmere nylon. Completely different textures. You will see the difference. So, I don't know. I watch Leslie from Not Quite Enough Yarn, and she puts in stripes. I mean, she would know this. She feels my pain here because she runs out of yarn a lot. She just adds stripes. I really don't want to stripe this, so I may have to put in another yarn that the colors match, but the textures are completely different. I don't know. We'll see. The other thing I might do is look on Ravelry to see if anyone else has this in their stash, and maybe message some people and see, if they don't want it, would they be willing to send it to me? I don't know. I've had people do that to me on Ravelry, say, hey, I see you have some of this, I need some of this, and I send it to them every time because, oh my gosh, I have been there. I might be there right now. So we'll see. And I do always check people's profiles because some people really hate when Ravelry users ask if they can buy something that's not marked for sale. So I do look for that, and I'm always very apologetic that I'm bothering somebody. At the same time, I have finished a couple projects from somebody's mercy, so we'll see. I mean, I got to finish this. I've got to pick up. I'll see how far I get. But this is Madewell by Joji. One of the key details normally on a Madewell is an elbow patch. I'm not gonna mess with that. I don't think that this sweater needs it. I think it's perfect. It's gonna be perfect just on its own. No elbow patch needed. So that's Madewell. One more time for the people in the back. All right, another whip I've got going on is just the little itty bitty start of some children's mittens. This is being made out of TurtlePurl yarns. It's her soft shelled turtle toes, soft shelled something. Her base that is got cashmere in it. It's a little bit plumper than her normal self-striping sock. I hold it together. I hold it double. You can kind of see it there. See if I can separate these. Here it is. I hold it double. When I cake it, I had to rip it out, hence the red band here. When I cake it though, her yarns come in two 50-gram skeins, and so I cake it into one ball so that I can very easily hold it double. Holding it double, I consider it to be about a heavy worsted. That's about what the gauge I get is. If you follow me on Instagram, it looks like this is where I was when I posted a picture a couple of days ago. Well, about 5 minutes after I posted that picture, I ripped the whole thing out because I had a little goblin that lives with me come up to me and say, "Mom, are those rainbow mittens for me?" And I thought, oh, they weren't gonna be, but they can be. He really wanted them. So I ripped it out, and because that was gonna be an adult medium and now we're at a child size. These will bang out so quickly. I just need to knit on them. And I've been working on I keep going back and forth between this and the Madewell. I've got to increase for the thumb soon, and once I get past that, it'll be stockinette for a while. So anyway, Polywana is the colorway. TurtlePurl yarns is the dyer. And these, the pattern is the world's simplest mittens. Finally, my other whip that I'm currently working on is the Katniss Poncho, and I'm making this out of Cascade Echo Wool. Now, this has been in this yarn, which, by the way, the cakes are nearly the size of my head. They're huge. I have had this in my stash for probably 10 years. It's been a long time. The cake can ride a bicycle on its own. You know, I mean, it's old. So I started making this, well, let me just say, I had enough. I made a sweater out of it. This wool is coarse. It's not soft. It's not squishy. I really don't enjoy wearing the sweater. It's itchy. It's weird to me because I know some people think, oh, all wool is itchy. And I'm like, no, most wool isn't itchy. I don't know what you're talking about. But this makes me itchy. I don't like it next to my skin. So I thought, oh, hey, I'll do the Katniss Poncho and it won't be next to my skin. This will be great. So I started making this. And first of all, right here, there's something funky going on right here. I was knitting on this at the fiber retreat last weekend during show and tell. Well, that was a horrible idea because even though this pattern is super simple and it's free, it's on Ravelry, I kept messing it up because I was so enamored with all of the beautiful projects being shown. So I had to put this down and pick up my Madewell because, you know, stockinette is super easy. I couldn't mess that up, but I definitely messed this up. So I've got to rip out about half of this and get back to there. The other thing though is that I really don't think this is going to fit me when I'm done. I look at how wide this is and how much of it's covering me and how wide it is on the model in the pattern photograph. I don't think this is going to fit. I'm okay with that. I'm okay if I knit this and I end up like, no, this is never going to look good on me. and I give it away. My biggest motivation in knitting this is I want this out of my stash. That is a huge motivator. This has been in my stash for too long. It's time for it to get pushed out of the stash nest and live as a finished object. So I will rip back half of it, which kind of sucks. Usually I keep going, but that's annoying me. And it's things like that don't normally, but I mean it's really annoying me. So I'll have to rip out half of this and then keep going. And then we'll see. You know, I'll try it on. I'll see if it fits, but most likely this will end up being a gift for somebody. It is a very simple pattern, but I did, and I know it happened right here, I did kind of confuse my front and back, so I have a progress keeper letting me know if I'm on the front or the back. And that progress keeper is from Ravelry, from Ravelry Stuff. She makes progress keepers, and she also makes necklaces. Oh man, she makes a lot of different things, magnets, and she knits up a swatch and solders around it, and you can have a magnet or a pendant. They're really cool. I would check it out if I were you. That's my Katniss Poncho. I'm currently working on this. Now I will say, these are massive skeins, right? So it needs a massive bag. It's living in my, do you see how big this is? I love it. This is my bag from Molly Klein Designs, and it is repurposed, obviously, from a button-down shirt. I love this bag. I love it. It is huge. It fits massive skeins. I can't wait for this project to be done so I can put it in some of my other large projects and keep it right here. I love this bag. I will say I have a ton of whips. I am someone that has like current whips, whips in timeout, whips for later, whips that I'm just meh about. I have whips in hibernation. I have a lost whip, which is the better part of a blanket that I don't want to give up on. So I know where half the blanket is, and I've lost the other half of the blanket, and I'm not ready to give up on it yet, but I have a lost whip out there somewhere as well. I have a ton of whips, and I'm okay with it. I like that. Every once in a while I'll be like, oh, I just feel like I need to get something done, and I don't want to start anything new. I mean, that doesn't happen a lot, but it does. So I pull a whip out. I'm working on you now. Let's finish you up. Let's bang this out. So I have a lot of whips. Those are just the ones that I'm currently working on. I do have a recent FO. By the way, this is my only FO for 2020 so far. My sweater's almost there. That blanket's almost there. I have things that are almost there. The mittens won't take long. But I didn't do a lot of crafting in January. I was very busy with work. And when I did pick up my needles and my loom, I had, or my pin loom, I was making larger projects. So this is my only FO so far in 2020. And this I actually made in about 4 days. This is a woven scarf. And just throw it on real quick over my shawl here. I love it. It's nice and balanced for those that weave. I am a very large fan. I made this out of Simply Socks Yarn Company Self-striping. And I gotta say, I'm not the only person. Look at that. Look at that weave. Oh, it's pretty. You'll find that teal, you're gonna see a lot of that teal if you watch me, because I am a massive fan of teal. Blues, teals are my number one, yellow being my second favorite color ever. So you'll see a lot of those if you continue watching me. But those are my whips. That's my one FO. Don't worry, next time I podcast, there will be a blanket. I'm sure the binding's on its way and there will be a blanket. Hopefully I will have a dish towel on the loom. That's kind of my goal for 2020, is to knock out a dish towel. I did create a 2020 Make 9. I did very well on my Make 9 last year. It was highly motivating. I enjoyed it so much. This year my Make 9, my Madewell is on my Make 9. The Mittens are on my Make 9. That Katniss Poncho is on my Make 9. So if I can get those done, there's 3 out of the 9 already. I'm super excited about that. My weaving projects, I have, well, the dish towels, but I have 2 scarves that I wanted to make, and that pin loom blanket. So I've got 1 scarf done. That pin loom blanket's moving along. I made a lot of goals for 2020. I haven't been able to like realize the results yet. I haven't felt a lot of accomplishment, and yet I know I'm making progress, and so I'm okay with where I'm at so far. For the most part, I am trying not to buy a lot of things this year. I am participating in Brown Girl Knits Stash Down 2020. If you don't know what that is, please check out Brown Girl Knits on Instagram. Look at the Stash Down 2020 hashtag. I would also encourage you to go on Ravelry and go to Brown Girl Knits Ravelry group and check it out there. There's some chatter going on. Everybody's trying to help each other out to kind of stash down a little bit in 2020. She's got some very reasonable rules. I mean, is it a rule? It's not like there's knitting police out there or stash police that are going to come after you if you break the rule, but very reasonable rules. I mean, there's a monthly yarn budget. There's I think you get 2. I lost my cool. I had to buy all the things. You get like 2 of those a year. I may have used 1 already. It's a possibility, but I kind of knew it was coming. My local yarn store is Simply Socks Yarn Company. If you've never heard of them, it is difficult to be within a very easy drive of a very large local yarn store. It's hard. But I kind of knew that a particular yarn was coming. I was really hoping that that particular yarn was coming before the beginning of this year. It didn't. So now it's one of those things where it's like, oh, let me stash enhance real quick before I start stashing down, but it didn't happen. So I kind of knew this was going to happen. Now that I have that yarn though, I don't feel like I need a whole lot more. I'm hoping to not have an enabling section in this podcast. Instead, I would like to have an attitude of gratitude and highlight some of the yarns that I already have and encourage you to go through your stash and look through the yarns that you already have and realize what yummy goodness is already there. So to start with, here's some things that I happened to come across the other day when I was pulling for some future projects for 2020. It's a new year, and for me, the color of new is green, even though today happens to be Valentine's Day, so there maybe more people would be thinking red. But I was thinking, hey, it's 2020, it's a new year, I've got new goals, it's a new podcast, and that to me, the color is green. So I would encourage you to go through your stash and look at some of the greens you have and remind yourself of why you picked those greens and what projects you were going to do with those greens, and just appreciate the squishy goodness of green yarn that you have. So here's the ones I wanted to look at today. These are Peepaloo Fields. I'll put these up here, which I am not enabling because she has taken down her store. So it's impossible to get this yarn. There you go. That's really true to color. This is Tea Leaves, and this is Lichen. It's a very scummy dark green, which my friend Diana and I have kind of been into the scummy greens lately. This is not enabling. You are not, it is impossible to buy this yarn anymore. She has stopped dyeing for now. She did not sell all of her dyeing supplies though, just in case she comes back. But she has been one of my favorite dyers to watch over the last couple of years, and I don't know what this is going to end up being, but I love it, and I hope it's not on my plans to knit this year. Per Brown Brown Girl Knits rules for Stash Down 2020, I have figured out, I don't know, it was like 18 knitting projects, and I think I listed out like 5 or 6 weaving projects. So, and then I pulled all the yarn and put it all together. So there's my, I have a bin of, these are my 2020, oops, it's rolling. These are my 2020 projects yarn. I have it all there. The green didn't make the cut, but I have it and it's beautiful and I appreciate it. So I encourage you, go through your yarn stash, especially if you're trying to do Stash Down 2020. There's also another group on Ravelry that I'm a part of, I've been a part of for years, and that's just Stash Down. We've been trying to stash down for years. Last year I did really well. This year I was doing well, except for that one oops, that I kind of knew was coming too. I knew I wanted to get in on the yarn when it showed up. I did it. So I did. So was it planned? Was it not planned? I don't know. Maybe I went a little more crazy than planned, but other than that one, and I know I'm going to get an Advent yarn later this year, but that's kind of my planned purchases. From this point forward, I should be good with just working from stash. I don't see any more yarn buying in my future. I certainly don't need any. I've got this massive bookcase, lots of bins behind me, full of yarn. Hopefully, I'll make a dent in this. Really focus on getting some projects done. My goals, I've got the yarn picked. Hopefully that's what happens. I really encourage anyone else that's stash downing to, hey, if you don't have a podcast, make one, so let's stash down together. Or if you do podcasts, please let me know, because I would love to watch other people that are also trying to stash down and maybe occasionally have oopsies like I did, so that I know I'm not alone. Please let me know I'm not alone in that. So I am someone though that I can fall off a wagon, I can get back on, and I think that's going to be relatively easy. What I'm wearing, real quick, this is the Gratitude Shawl by Oblivious Knits, and it is by far my most worn shawl. Her pattern, actually, she stripes it, but I had a gradient set from Unique Sheep in the Carpe Diem colorway, and it's my favorite shawl. I have some favorites, but this is like the favorite. I love this shawl so much, and I love that the pattern's called Gratitude. I love that the colorway is called Carpe Diem. Both phrases and concepts are things that I can get behind. So that is it. I just want to shout out one more time to the Knitters Are Here podcast, Two Pearls in a Pod podcast, and Chevy Roll Stuff podcast for encouraging me to jump in with both feet to the podcasting world. Please go check them out. I love them. They're wonderful people. I was so blessed to be able to meet them last weekend. And happy crafting, everyone. Have a great day.